Oh yeah, after we lead them around, then obviously they have to have the opportunity to steer. I like to do a kind of steering demonstration from on the horse's back, because then they really get a sense of what's going to happen when they get riding. You can just kind of stand on the ground and talk about it, but it's not the same as if they see it in action. I choose pretty carefully what horse I use to do a steering demonstration. I really want to use a horse. Most of my horses are pretty good, but some of them really demonstrate that ability to follow your following of direction. So you look where you want to go, you show with your hands, and that horse should already be turning and starting to go. And then later on when you're riding and go back to them, after you've ridden a couple of turns, your horse should be feeling really in tune with you. And when you look, it should already be starting to kind of go. So I try to choose one of my horses that's going to do well with that, so that the kids get a good picture of what's possible. In order to be a good leader, you got to have a plan. Now the thing is now what you're going to do, you told your horse your plan while you were on the ground pretty good, didn't you? Yep, so now you're going to tell your horse your plan while you were sitting on their back. There is some stuff to help you. All of the horses have got a bridle on, that's something on their head. Actually, all of these horses have a bit in their mouth. Sometimes I have horses without a bit in their mouth, but these guys all have a bit. And all of these horses have got reins. These things are just here to help you tell your plan to your horse. That's what they're for, okay? So you hold them like this, one in each hand, up from your horse's mouth, over your, by your little finger, over your big finger, thumb on top, like a PlayStation controller. If you want to look like you know what you're doing, it doesn't make any difference, but if you want to look like you know what you're doing, you can put your little finger out like that. It doesn't really do anything, okay? So, now the big thing is that if your horse, remember you were walking your horse and they were coming with you and there was a little bit of a soft loop in the rein and they just knew that they were getting it right? So it's the same when you're riding them. If you want to go someplace, you get in your head your plan. You think about where you want to go. I want to go to the yards over there, okay? So I'd look at the yards. I would show with my hand. If she didn't go, I would have a little feel on the rein, a little pull. If she still didn't go, I'd squeeze with my legs and her tummy. As soon as she cottons onto where she's going and heads over there, I'm going to let her know she got it right. Just how you did when you were leading them, I'm going to let it be a little loop in the rein like that. A little slack. Hands forward. That's how you go, yep, yes, okay? So I'd look where I want to go, show with my hand, a little feel. If she doesn't go, if she still doesn't go, a little pull. As soon as she's going the right way, I let her know, yes, you got it right. I let my hands go forward. The yes is actually the most important part. That's the thing that makes them think about what you're asking, because they're thinking, ooh, did I get it right? And they're kind of happy when they get it right, okay? If I want to stop, I pick a place on the ground that I want to stop, a piece of poo or a stick or a grass leaf or something. And when I get there, I think that's as far as I want to go. And if they stop, that's good. And if they don't stop, I sit back a little tiny bit. And if they still don't stop, I will have a feel on my reins until they stop. And as soon as they stop, I go, yes. Okay? Okay, I'm going to have a little walk around. How come, actually, I just did all this stuff with her and she didn't go anywhere? Yeah? Yeah, not actually completely right. Kind of, but pretty much because that wasn't the plan. The plan was that I was going to sit here on her and do all this kind of stuff, but I didn't really want to go anywhere. Okay? So she might be a little bit asleep now, so she might not listen to the plan if it changes, but that was the plan. We'll see. Okay, Megs, we're going to go over to the yards over there. So I'm going to look, show, little feel if I need to. Don't really need to use much squeeze. And yes, as soon as she goes there, good. Now I'm going to go to the power pole. So I'm going to look at it, show her, and yes. Now I'm going to go to the jumps. I'm going to look at them, show her, and yes. Now I'm going to go back to the power pole. I'm going to look at it, show her, and yes with my hands. Now I'm going to go back to the yards. Look, show, and yes. Now I'm going to stop on that piece of poo there, okay? I don't need to stand in it. That's as far as I'm going. When I get there, I think that's it. If she doesn't stop, well, she did. I would have sat back a little bit, and if she still didn't stop, I would have pulled. As soon as she stopped, I would have gone yes. Now I'm going to come back to you guys. I'm going to look at you. I'm going to show her. And yes, okay? It's pretty easy. All right? So you guys, it's very much like, and I'm going to stop there. Oh, I had to have a little pull. There we go. It's like if you've got a really good friend. You know how you got a really good friend and you don't have to say much to them? You know, if you come in and then you're in your house, you might come in and be like, and they know that means put the jug on. Yeah? It's like that. Sometimes you might come into their house and they're like reading a book and you'd be like, hey, can you put the jug on? And then if they're really not paying attention, you might be like, oi, put the jug on. And it's like that, okay? So basically, you wouldn't come into your friend's house and start shouting at them right away, put the jug on. You'd probably go in and be like, hey. So that's how it is with the horses. If you have a good relationship with them, sometimes you just don't have to do too much and they totally understand you. Did you see that I didn't have to do too much sometimes to get her to do stuff? Yeah. So that's pretty cool, eh? So that's what you're aiming for. It's pretty nice when you get that feeling. But if you don't get it, then you have to be prepared to be like, excuse me. Okay? Now, so we had it again. So remember, so it's one hand or the other. So I'm going to show with this hand or this hand. I'm not going to put both hands across. That can be confusing, okay? And the yes is really important, you know. So if your hands are forward, yes, like this, that's perfect. Sometimes people go, yeah, I'm going to relax. But does that look relaxing for her? No, it's pulling in her mouth. That's right. Because the bit in her mouth is just sitting there. It's like having a spoon in your mouth. It's just sitting there. Doesn't really do anything, right? But imagine if someone came along and moved the spoon gently around in your mouth. You'd kind of be okay with that. It'd be a bit weird, but you'd be okay. But then imagine if someone came along and went clang, 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 clang in your mouth. How would that be? That would be bad. Yeah, exactly. So that's how we have to be with them with bits in their mouth. We have to kind of look after them and just think about it like that. You know, if we need to use it and we need to have a little feel here and there, that's not too bad, but we don't want to be like slamming it around in our mouth. That's not very nice, okay? This is an important thing. Horses don't have don't. They don't understand don't, okay? So if you're riding along a bush trail and you don't want to run into that tree, under that branch on that tree, you can't think, don't run me under the branch, because what would your horse hear? It's just the don't part. Hey? Exactly. It's just the don't part that they don't understand. They still understand. They're really not understanding really what you're thinking about, but they're understanding where your thoughts are and what you're kind of thinking about, but they don't get like the words. So you can't go, don't do such and such. All they can feel is your focus on the tree, and they're like, okay. So if you don't want to run into the tree, then what you do is need to focus someplace else. You might think, go on the clear path. That makes it easier. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't be like, don't run into Matua, because that's pretty much where she'd go. Instead, I'd have to be like, go to Buka. Okay? That's good. So the kids get a good idea of what's possible when they're riding. Because lots of them have only seen pull this way and kick to go. And so, you know, it's really about illustrating to them that it's thinking in your head where you want to go, looking, showing with one hand out to the side, having a little feel if they don't understand the show, and then using your legs. And I demonstrate how to use your legs. It's not really like squeezing. It's not a kind of wiggling of bum type of thing. It's just a little donk with your heels pretty much on their side, a definite, let's do this. And then the thing where when the horse is going where they want them to go, there's a nice soft hand, forward hand with a little bit of a loop in the rein. I think it works pretty good. Now you're going to come this way, so look at me, and yes. Good. You don't have to say yes out loud. You can just say it with your hands, but you can say it out loud if you want to. Now we're going to go over that way. So look there. And yes. And now come with me this way. Look and show. Yes. How's that going? Good? And now see if you can go to that cone. So look at the cone and go to the cone. Good girl. And now come to me. Look at me. With your eye. Look at me with your eyes. Yes. Do you feel that when you look? Makes a difference. Good. And now come to me. Look at me. Turn your head. Did you feel when you looked at me? Makes a difference, eh? That's good. Now go to the tractor. So look at the tractor. One hand to the other. Put the other hand down a bit. There. And now come back to me again. Look with your eyes. You feel that? It's cool, eh? Put your eyes on me. There. If you look down, it's hard to balance and hard for him to understand, okay? Look at Bex and go to her. Excellent. Look hard. Excellent. Good. And now look at me. Really train yourself to look at me. Oops. So you've got don't going on in your head, okay? Did you feel that? Did you have that?
Yeah.
You did, eh? You were like, don't go to Bex. So because you were going, don't go to Bex, and not thinking about me, even though you actually did everything right with your body, you looked at me, and you showed with your hands, he couldn't listen to that. Because he has to listen to your brain more than he listens to your body. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, you ready? Come to me. Look at me and think about me. There you go. Good. You got it. That's it. Awesome. Now you can weave in and out of the cones on the way back, okay? So look at the gaps, not at the cones. If you look at the cones, you could hit them. If you look at the gaps, you'll be good. Very nice. You're really nice and soft. One hand at a time. You don't need to lean. Just like, oh, brilliant. Look at you. Magic, Tanner. That's awesome. And go over to Heavenly. Who's next? After they've had a good steer around and they've turned a few times themselves, and some get to turn heaps themselves, some are still a little bit nervous and will mainly follow you around for a while, but there is a little time constraint, and you just mainly want them to have a really good positive experience. So after that they get to have a trot. So for the trot, we get them to keep the reins and hold the mane. I will say, okay, so basically in order to trot, you've got to think you want to trot. So raise your energy a little bit, and if the horse doesn't understand that, then you can give a little squeeze with your legs on their sides. We run with the kids, so we stand in here next to the horse's, usually left-hand side, doesn't matter, and hold their cheek piece or the cheek piece of their halter, something like that. We're not really hanging on to it. We just kind of like have our hand in there, and we go walking and trotting. And if the horse doesn't trot, we will kind of get them hopefully to trot a little bit ourselves. And then when the horse is trotting, we just run in a relaxed manner. It's important to not run too fast, because you want the kids to just feel that nice jog, 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 so it's like fun, and not so fast that it becomes really bouncy and hard for them to relax and feel comfortable. I believe in forward, upwards, and downward transitions. So when we want our horses to walk, we just walk forward again and expect that our horses would walk forward with us. If they don't, we would have a little feel on their cheek piece to help them to come back to a walk. I don't get the kids to go trot and then pull back. After they've had one or two trots with us, and trotting and walking like that, then I would let go, and they would need to do the trotting themselves, hands forward, hold the mane, raise their energy, and walking forward. So I like them to hands forward to walk. If that doesn't work, then they can have a little feel. I don't want the horse to be trotting along happily, thinking it's doing the right thing, and then have someone pull on them, because that's not really fair. They didn't give the horse any warning. It's a little bit mean. The horse thought they were doing the right thing, so they always have to ask for that walk first and then pull the reins if they need to. I get them to hold the mane so that when the horse is trotting, and their hands could be bouncing because they are new riders, or even quite good riders still sometimes have a little trot and then get normal and balanced. Holding the mane at the beginning of a trot allows your hands to be really stable so that your horse feels really confident moving into the trot. And that's probably the most important thing that I do for keeping my kind of riding school ponies that you would think hated trotting still feeling motivated to pull a trot out of the bag for a beginner. It's those soft forward hands where the kids just don't interfere with them. That, I think, is really important. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our energy. So we're going to go walking and trotting. You're just going to raise your energy a little bit. If he doesn't go from that, you can give a little squeeze with your legs. Sometimes what happens is people sit really like this and then kick.
Yeah.
but that doesn't convey any to the horse, and you've got to convey the hey. Does that make sense? Okay. And when you want to walk, you don't need to pull. What I want you to do is think walk forward, and if he doesn't, then pull. Okay, you want to try it with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so we'll go down here together. So you're going to look down the end, put your hands forward, hold the mane, get a little excited, sit up tall, and trotting. He's pretty not trotting. We'll get him going a little bit better. Okay, you're going to have big energy because he's quite not trotty, okay?
Yeah.
Look up the end, get a little excited, and trotting. Yeah, there we go. That was better. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
Good job. Ready? So we're going to go walking. Look up and trotting. Yeah. And walking. Good. I'll have another go down the other way. Good girl, Summer. At the end, every rotation is a little bit different, but the best ones with the most time, you know, some classes want just a short one or something like that, but the best ones have games, like a little relay race at the end. That's really fun. It's just weaving through the cones with a jump off, run under a pole, touch the cone, back over the pole, running, and then another leg up and a trot back. It's pretty simple, but it's a nice way to get the kids to be able to kind of put their newfound riding skills to the test, kind of practice things a bit. That's pretty cool. And it's a good place for kids to show off if they already have some riding skills. They can kind of do it a little bit more independently. That's fun for them. And then we do some jumping. I love teaching jumping at this basic level. The horses actually really like the jumping part, so they can be pretty excited for the race. They actually quite enjoy trotting back and changing over and having a go. Horses that are kind of getting sick of leg ups around the people paddock for the normal intro part suddenly become good again for leg ups during a race. I don't know why. For some reason they just get a little bit into it. And they're always really good for leg ups during the jumping part. So when I teach jumping to a bunch of kids, I make it really straightforward. I just kind of, get the pole obviously pretty low and the jump down, and I kind of tell them, okay, so already they know that if you want to stop, you've got to pick a place on the ground that you want to stop at and make that your final destination. That's what I teach them about stopping. And then if you get to that final destination and you haven't stopped, then you pull. So that's how I teach them to stop. So when I kind of get to a jump and I say, okay, we're going to be jumping, and I usually say there's some stuff that we have to do with there's some stuff that we have to tell the horse, and there's some stuff that we have to do with our body. So when you're far away from the jump, you can look at it coming into the jump. Yep, look at the middle of the jump where you want to go. But if you get right up to the jump and you're still looking at it, what is your horse going to do? And they, have already picked up that if you just stand there looking there, they're going to stop. So they're going to stop and you go, yep, that's it. So when you're far away from the jump, you can look at the jump. But as you get closer, you need to look up in the distance where you want to go. And keep riding your horse there. So we get them to, and then we get them to do some stuff for their body. Now, all we really do is get them to make sure that they are definitely hanging onto the mane. And just before the jump, we get them to close their legs around the horse. Because I really don't think that horses like to jump with something that's not properly attached to them. They are pretty happy to jump if the kid is like there hanging on. It's a little bit the same as, if you're really a show jumper and you're coming into the jump, you're like legs on. You're not really so much, I don't think, indicating that you want your horse to jump at that time, but you're indicating to your horse that if he jumps, you're going to stay there. And they like that. So that's what we do. We get them to hold the mane, close their legs around the horse, and as they go over the jump, the horse's neck will pull them just that little tiny bit forward. They don't need to be going any further forward. The jump is only this big. We don't need to teach them to lay down over a jump when the jump's only this big. When the jumps get this big, your horse is coming up to you anyway. You're not laying down as much as you think you are sometimes. Look up. Close your legs. Well done. So we teach that from an early age. Just hang on. The horse tells them a little bit forward. After the jump, they need to sit back up and keep riding. Funnily enough, kids don't fall off over the jump very often, but every once in a while they fall off, 5 or 10 meters after, because they're like, I jumped! They're like really excited about it, and they kind of like forget they're riding and get ready to fall off. So yeah, you've got to stay on after the jump as well. The horses love the jumping part. It's can be pretty fun.